I'm Eddie Evans, and although I have never lived in the village of Tredeguaya, here on the outskirts of Tredegar, it is my heritage. I am descended from a Thomas family, who were born and lived in the village, and still remains here today. My grandson, Gerald Thomas, was born in number 59 Tredeguaya, back in 1948. This was a remarkably busy village, and once had 96 houses and approximately 500 residents. There were 2 streets consisting of a top road that went from number 1 to number 84, then a lower row from 85 to 96. Tredeguaya was built in 1863 for the immigrant workers moving here for the collieries and ironworks. The 1881 census shows that many families moved here from Somerset and North Wales. The village was originally called Himalaya Range during its construction, probably because the Himalayas were very on topic in the 1860s. With many photographs being in the news. There are 12 remaining, and I'm lucky enough that my family still lives in 4 of those houses. There are just 16 residents left today. Now the village has less houses than letters in its name, and my mother lived in number 92. My grandpa's sister Ray and his brother Fred still live here today and are proud members of the village.
The thriving village had everything it needed. Villagers only really needed to leave to go to the collieries or ironworks. There was a primary school for all the under 14s and a very popular pub for anybody over 14. The village had a post office and 3 different shops. There was even a dairy and a bakery. Religion was important, and there have been 4 different places of worship over time. There was Armageddon Chapel, which closed in 1904 due to subsidence and was later demolished in 1910. There was the very impressive St. David's Church, which was built in 1909 and lasted until 1976. Bethania Chapel was at the bottom of the town road, and also Primitive Chapel from 1880 to 1919, when it was demolished to make way for the Workmen's Institute and Library. The Institute was a hive of activity. It had a snooker room and library. The daily newspapers would be displayed there for the villagers. No women were allowed in, but allowances were made for an occasional whist drive or one of the monthly family dances. Only men over 14 were allowed. Billiards were played, and there were sometimes guest speakers. The Institute closed in 1958. The village had a bus service, and my grandfather Ray Thomas would drive the red and white vehicle and skillfully turn it at the end of the village. I say skillfully because anyone who has even tried to turn a car in that small space would know how tricky it can be. He drove the final bus to Trud in 1980. Tredeguaya was once so idyllic that the BBC used it to film The Citadel and The District Nurse, as it depicted a typical mining village. You might wonder how such a bustling hive of a village could be turned into the quiet landscape that you see today. It began in 1973 with what would become a 20-year battle. Tredegar Urban District Council commissioned a geological survey of the mountain and concluded that it posed a hazard. Studies found that it was moving, and it was feared that a heavy rainfall could trigger a devastating landslip, which would engulf the village. With the cost of securing the mountain estimated at £400,000, the council decided to move families out.
By the mid-80s, only 12 families remained, and the other properties were left empty. In 1986, the families left were determined to stay. The council issued them with compulsory purchase orders, but they fought on and an inquiry was launched. Finally, in 1988, the villagers were victorious and won the right to stay in their houses. Eventually, the empty houses were demolished and were all gone by 1993, leaving this historic village looking more like what we see today.